What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy, the network. And today's topic is configure and verify default routing. Same topic as the last video, except this is part 4 of a 4-part series. So we finally wrapping up default routing. We're going to be specifically talking about default routes and propagating them using BGP. This is a topic in the CCNP route exam code 300-101, version 2.0. Let's take a look at the exam blueprint, see where we came from and where we're headed. All right, again, this is implementing Cisco IP routing. This is also known as the CCNP route exam code 300-101. Make sure you are studying for the most up-to-date material. Again, this is version 2.0. You might find some old material floating out there. Some of it might be relevant, some of it might not be. So make sure it's up to date. We just wrapped up the third part of this 4-part series in configuring and verify default routing. We was wrapping up how to propagate the default route using EIGRP. Today we're going to be doing propagating the default route or injecting the default route. Sometimes they call it using BGP. After that, we're going to finally move on to categorizing the routing protocol types, distance vector, link state, and path vector. For now, we again doing BGP default routes. Again, we talked about what default routes are in the past 3 videos. If you don't know what it is, I use this analogy to kind of explain it. So you in your neighborhood, or you trying to get to a specific city, a remote city, somewhere far. Let's say you live in New York City, you're trying to get to Seattle, Washington, right? You don't know how to get to Seattle, Washington. It's a long ass way. It's a long way to get there, but you do know how to get out of your neighborhood, right? That one road that'll take you out of your neighborhood will be considered your default route. From that point on, you can take, this road to that highway, to this highway, to this junction, whatever, to this toll booth, to finally make it to Seattle, Washington. But right now, we're concerned with default routes, and that's basically the main road to get out of your neighborhood, just your neighborhood, right? So now we are talking about propagating default routes, or sometimes they call it injecting a default route to using BGP. Remember, BGP is a routing protocol, and you use this to share routes, right? So share routing tables, whatever. What we would do with BGP default routes, what we would do is, let's say you get out of your neighborhood, right? As soon as you get out of your neighborhood, taking that default route, you phone back home and let everybody back at the house or back in your neighborhood, you put them on 3-way, whatever, and you let them know, hey, look, you want to know, I don't know how to get out of Seattle, but to get out of the neighborhood, you're going to take this road, and you're going to be able to get out of the neighborhood. From that point on, we'll figure it out from there. When you phone it back home, that's basically injecting a default route, or sometimes they call it propagating the default route. And that's what we're going to cover today. Let's go ahead and look at the official definition. Not really the official definition, but let's just go ahead and move on to the slides, really. Again, I've been using this for the past couple videos. I know it's getting tired and old. Don't worry, we're going to move on to the next topic after this. This is not a default route. This is just corny imagery once again. So there are 3 methods to configure a default route in BGP, right? It's really just 2. And the default originate there's a variation of that, but I just said they are 3 different methods. So the first one is using default originate command, and we're gonna go further into these in the next couple slides. After that, you can advertise the default route using your network command, kind of like when you do router, and then the protocol, like say EIGRP, and then the AS number. Below that, you put the network that you want to advertise out of that interface. Well, you can advertise a default route using the network command. And I'll show you how to do that. We are actually going to demonstrate all this in GNS3. The third method is to use the neighbor, the IP address of the neighbor, and the default originate. Now, the difference between the first default originate and the second one is with default originate, it's kind of like you injecting that route globally. You letting everybody know about it. With the third method right here, neighbor, you specifying one specific, you letting one neighbor know about this default route using that command. Again, using the default originate command, the route must exist in the routing table already, right? So you got to actually type in a static route, IP route, quad 0 subnet mask, and then the next hop, right? And that has to be in the routing table. When you do show IP route, you got to have the static route before you can use this command to actually inject it or share it. So basically, you go in the router config mode, so router BGP or router, in this case BGP, and then the AS number And then once you're in router config mode, you would type in default information originate. From that point on, you'll be sharing the default route. I'll show y'all how to do that in GNS3 once again. Starting to sound like a broken record. I'm always sounding like a broken record. I guess I like DJing. Well, I'm a hip hop head. So you could also advertise via the network command. The default route must be, once again, in the routing table. There is a way to do this without it being in the routing table, but this is how we do it. And when you use this method, it has to be in the routing table. So again, you got to type in the default route, IP route, quad 0, and then the exit interface or the next hop address. And then you will go to router config mode and then type in network quad 0. Remember, quad 0 is it's like it's your default route essentially. But when you're doing it this way, you are injecting the route in using BGP. Again, network quad 0 will inject the default route into BGP only if the default route is currently present in the routing table. I put this over here, and again, I know it sounds repetitive, but like I said, I watch these videos, and that kind of reminds me. So that's why I put here again. The route must be in the routing table. When you do show IP route, it must be in there as a static route before this will work. Lastly, the third method is using neighbor XXX, which is the IP address or variable IP address, and then default originate. When you do it, the difference between this command and that command, default originate, is this you are globally sharing that route. You letting a whole bunch of people or a whole bunch of routers really in your network know about the default route. With this, you are specifying a specific router. Be like you letting instead of calling back at phone at home, letting everybody know, hey, y'all want to know how to get out of this neighborhood? This is what y'all do. You put everybody on three-way or on a conference call. Instead of doing a conference call, you basically calling just one friend of yours and letting them know, hey, I'm not gonna tell everybody else this, but you want to know how to get out of the network, you're gonna take this route. That's what essentially this command right here is doing. Neighbor, the IP address, you letting in the default originate. Starting a tongue twist over here. This is, again, you are specifying one specific neighbor and letting them know how to use the default route. Basically, yeah, the default route, that's the other thing. With this, the default route will not be in the routing information base. So if you do like show IP BGP or even show IP route, I don't believe. No, actually, it'll be in the show IP route. I don't think it'll be in show IP BGP. We'll experiment with that. When you do this, the route will not be, it's not going to be installed in the routing information base. So essentially, it's kind of like he's putting that route in his back pocket, the one who received it, but he's not letting everybody else know the ways to get out of the neighborhood. He just kind of like, he kind of know about it, but he ain't letting everybody else in the house know how to get out of the neighborhood. He's being real sneaky. So that's essentially what happens here when you use this command. It's not going to show up in the routing table. All right, so let's go ahead and demonstrate BGP default routes in DNS3. Okay, let's talk about this topology right here, right? We have we got four routers here, right? We got router 1 and router 4 in AS400, or sorry, AS100, force of habit. I used to work with that software, IBM software, back when I worked at the police department. Anyway, AS100, and this is these two routers are in that autonomous system in BGP, right? We got router 2 on the left-hand side in AS200, router 3 in the AS300. Right here, I put in null 0. If you don't know what a null 0 is, it's basically a black hole. That's why I put that image there. Anytime we route, it's a virtual interface, kind of like a loopback address, right? But you could do interface null 0, and it'll show up when you do show IP interface brief, right? This is a virtual interface, but we use this for like testing purposes, or if we want to just send packets to basically a black hole. Because if you type in let's say you type in somehow you route a packet to null 0, it's basically going to get dropped, and that's what we're going to use. We're going to do for testing purposes. I guess we probably could have used the loopback address, but for this we're going to use the null 0 route. So that's going to be the default route. We're going to be sending send some packets to null 0. All right. First thing we're going to do, let's go on router 1. Let's console on router 1, and we're going to try to create like we did in I think in the EIGRP video. We're going to create a static route, and then we're going to try to just redistribute it just like we do, just regular like we do with EIGRP, and see if that works. Configure terminal. We're gonna create a static route, IP route quad 0. I don't know if anybody else calls it that. I call it that. Sometimes they call it the 0 route in the industry. I like to call it quad 0. Subnet mask is also quad 0, and we're gonna route these packets to null 0. That's basically saying, y'all want to get out of this neighborhood, take this little black hole right here. If you don't know what a black hole is basically, you know, something in space that light can't really escape. Nothing can escape it, not even light. So stars, and when they run out of fuel and stuff like that, when their light it just goes into the black hole. That's why you can't even really picture it. That's why it looks like that. So it just gets sucked in. That's why it's called a black hole, as you can see right there. But anyways, this ain't I know this ain't astrology, or this ain't we ain't talking about gravity and stuff like that. This is supposed to be networking. Let me stick to the topics here. So we created a static route, and let's go ahead and see if it's in our route table. Do show IP routes, and as you can see, we got our static route S, right? It's a candidate default quad 0. Subnet mask is quad 0, is directly connected to null 0, right? And it even says right here, gateway of last resort is quad 0 is network quad 0, right? Basically, that's saying we don't know how to get to this city or that city or this city, but if you want to get out of the neighborhood, take this route. That's basically what this says right here, gateway of last resort, right? So let's go into what protocols we have in here. We got BGP, obviously. Let's see what process they are, because I forgot. I think it's AS100. Well, AS100. See, I almost said it again. Show IP protocols, right? We got BGP 100, right? Let's go ahead to router BGP 100 and router BGP. I try to shorthand it, but that's an ambiguous command, as you can see. Let's do redistribute static, right? So we did that, and let's go ahead and do show IP protocols. And you can see we are redistributing static routes using BGP, or trying to at least. Let's go ahead and take a look at, let's look at router 4 to see if that route has propagated, if he's gotten that route. Console in the router 4. Let's do a show IP route, and you'll see he only has a route to his directly connected network, right? This is the 1414, the 14410 network right here. That's all he's got. So he don't have a default route to null 0. This is the 12. I forgot to mention this. This is the 12 route. And this is the 1313 route. These are all .1. That's .2, .4, and .3 respectively. I just ain't feel like labeling all that stuff. So anyways, router 4 does not have the default route. So as you can see, redistributing the static route with BGP is not going to work if you do it that way. So what we're going to do is let's see which one we're going to do first. We're going to try the default originate command. Right? Remember, the route must exist in the routing table already. So we just put it in there. Let's go ahead and remove the redistribute static just so I can prove to y'all. Go back to router 1. We're going to remove no redistribute static. So we removing that. And let's do it again. Show IP, show IP protocols. And you can see we are not redistributing static routes again. So now let's try redistribute redistribute originate. My bad. What am I saying? Originate default. See, this is why you're not going to remember every single command. You just need to understand the topic. That's where the question mark will come in. Default information originate. Now, if we do show IP route on router 1, right? We have the quad 0 route still in here. We still have it in here. And let's check router 4 to see if it went through or if he's sharing that route. We're going to console in the router 4 and show IP route. You can see, so we have to redistribute the static. So let's do that again. Redistribute static. Y'all see it didn't show up that time, right? Redistribute static. Let's go back to router 4, show IP route. We have to redistribute static and also default information originate. as you can see. Now, as you can see, that route is being injected. Let's go ahead and check router 2 if he's got it. Console. I'm gonna try not to edit that out, just so y'all can see. You have to do redistribute static. You got to create the static route, redistribute static, and then default information originate. So we're gonna go into router 2, show IP route, and you can see he got the BGP route. B for BGP, right? Star for candidate default, meaning, okay, we don't know how to get out of, if we don't know how to get somewhere, we could take this road to at least get out of our neighborhood. That's basically what that's saying. And then obviously the route, the static route, quad 0 / quad 0. The AD or administrative distance is 20 for BGP, right? Metric is 0 via 12.1. That's the next hop, this right here, right? Let's go ahead and move on to the next method, which was, we did default information, default originate. I think I did a typo there, didn't I? No, it's supposed to be default information originate. That's what it is. I forgot to type in. It's supposed to be default information originate. That's probably why I got tripped up. We can advertise via the network command. Let's go ahead and also, let's go back to that other one. You can also, don't forget this command, show IP BGP. And you can see there's the quad 0 route, right? This is telling us star, which means it's a valid route. And then the greater than symbol, which means it is the best route, right? So your best in static routes, highest AD or lowest AD in this case, rather, that's the best route. Going to be at the top of your, what they call your RIB, or routing information base. So don't forget that command too. Show IP BGP. Let's do it in router 4 so you can see too. Show IP BGP, and there it is right there. All right, lowercase I. Let's not forget that this is an internal gateway protocol, or it's an internal BGP route, because you can see they are in the same AS. Router 2 is not in that AS. That's why it's not an internal gateway. That's why it's not internal BGP. As a matter of fact, I believe the AD might be different on this one. Let's see. Show IP route. Yep. See. So it's 200, as you can see, on router 4, right? On router 2, router 4, I'll show y'all. Router 4, the AD for BGP was 200. For router 2, you'll see show IP route. I already showed y'all that the BGP is 20 right there, because he's in a different AS, right? Internal BGP routes is 200. Remember, because they're in the same AS. See? AS 100, the purple. All right, so let's move on to the network quad 0 command, and essentially that's you know how you do network, and then you type in the network address and you advertising out of that interface, right? That's basically what that is. It's real easy. I'll show y'all real quick. Let's go back to router 1, right? This guy right here. We're going back to router 1, and we're gonna remove so that way we know that it so I can prove this to y'all. We're going to remove the default information originate. We're going to remove that. And we are redistributing the static. Let's remove that too, though, just so we can see if it works or without it. We are removing. I'm getting tongue twisted here. Sound like Twister from Chicago. Y'all remember? I bet y'all didn't know he used to be called Tongue Twister. If you listen to hip hop. That's back in the day, back in the early 90s, back in the like Yo MTV Raps. Yeah, I'm that old. So let's try the network quad 0 first. Let's go back into enable mode. We're gonna go to configure terminal, right? Let's prove that the route is the route is in there. Show IP routes. There is a static route for router 1. Let's go back to router 4. You'll see it's not in there anymore, right? Show IP routes. Oh, it is still in there. What did I forget to remove? We forgot to remove the I think you'd have to remove the static route, which we did, but let's do show IP protocols. We didn't remove the static. Redistribute static. Router BGP 100. Let's no redistribute static. and then go back to router 4, which is him at the bottom, right? This guy. Let's go back to router 4 and then show IP route, and we essentially removed the route that time, right? So let's try back to router 1, this guy right here, right? And then we're gonna do router BGP. Oh, we already in BGP 100. We just gonna do network quad 0, right? And then you can see do show IP protocols. We now have, we put in network quad 0. It's not going to be in there though. It's going to be, let's just do a show run section, pipe section BGP. We're going to check the BGP section, and you can see there it is right there, right? We put the network quad 0. Now it's in here. Let's check to see how his routing table look like so far. Do show IP routes. Obviously, the quad 0 route still going to be in there. However, remember we removed it. We removed the default information originate, and that's how router 4 got it. And let's check to see, does he have it now that we did network quad 0. Back to router 4. Show IP routes. And you can see it's in there, right? We removed it essentially. So we don't have to do read distribute static. We just needed to we just have to put in network quad 0, and you can share the route that way. And lastly, actually, let's check router 3. We haven't harassed router 3 yet. I'm sorry, we haven't investigated router 3 yet. You know, this is the Me Too movement. I'm sorry if any feminists is watching. I'm sorry. You know, I appreciate women in STEM and stuff like that. It's just, you know, with all this crazy stuff going on. But anyways, you got to be careful with what you say. Back to router 3. Let's console into him. Let's see if he's got the route. Show. Remember, we haven't touched him at all. Show IP routes. You can see he got the BGP route. AD20B, right, for BGP. Star for us a Canada default. We don't know how to get to a specific city. We don't know how to get to Sacramento, California, but we know how to get out of the neighborhood. That's what essentially that's saying. And our gateway of last resort is 1313.1, which is this interface here, right? It's 1313.1. That's 1313.2, and that's the quad 0 route that we just defined there using that network quad 0. Lastly, we are going to go over the neighbor IP address default information originate. Remember, we did the network quad 0. Everybody got this route. Everybody got this route. Now we're just gonna give it to a specific neighbor. Let's pick router 2 again. We are going to remove, go back to router 1. We're gonna console back into router 1 and remove the network quad 0. Right? And then let's verify that we removed it. Section BGP. Oh, it's still in there. Oh, no, why we got to put no, duh. What's going on with me today, y'all? All right, no network quad 0. I may remove that or not, or I might just leave it in there for comic relief. Back to so let's check again. Do show run pipe section BGP. You can see in our running configuration, we essentially remove the network command. So we are not propagating that route using BGP. Let's go to router 2 and check his routing table. Show IP routes. You can see he got no default gateway. Last resort is not set, and that static route is not in there. But we do in router 1. I can show y'all. Let's do a show run section route. That's just basically gonna pull up anything with route in there. That's like include. There it is right there. We have the static route, but we're not sharing it, right? Let's say we don't want to give it to everybody like we did with the network quad 0 or the default information originate command. Let's say we want to give it to just one person. Hey, router 2, you want to know how to get to null 0, or you want to know how to get to this neighborhood? Take this route. I'm gonna show you, but I ain't gonna tell router 4 and router 3. This is what we're gonna do here. Let's start from the beginning so I can show y'all. Enable, well, we are in enable mode. Configure terminal router. We go to the routing process BGP, not process, and then the AS number 100, and then we are going to do neighbor We're defining the neighbor. We got to define router 2's network address, which I don't really know by heart, so let's go ahead and check. Actually, he's 1212.2, but let's go in there and verify though. Show IP interface brief. Yeah, he's 1212.2. So we gonna go back to router 1. His neighbor is 1212.2, and then we gotta do default, or I'm sorry, was it default? Default originate, and then that's pretty much it. We're not going to discuss that command right there. That's, I believe, another topic when we further discuss BGP. We just doing BGP default routes, all right? So now we just specifying him as a neighbor to get that route, and we could see if we go back to router 2. Remember, he didn't have that route, right? There it is right there. That's that command, show IP route. He didn't have that route before. So now if we do show, I wonder if we got to do redistribute static. We probably don't. Show IP route, and there it is. We didn't have to redistribute static. We just needed to specify the neighbor, do default information originate, and then there it is. So B, right, for BGP, star for candidate default. You don't know how to get to a specific city, just go ahead and take this route to get out of your neighborhood. Quad 0/0, the AD is 20, administrative distance, right? If you don't know what that is, there's a video. I'm going to do a video. Actually, it's one of the objectives in the blueprint for CCNP. 0 is the metric. Basically, that's kind of like mileage in a way. And via 1212.1. So that's the next hop. 1212.1. That's this next hop. To get to node 0, take this next hop to get to node 0. That's essentially what that's saying. And that's pretty much it. That's the 3 ways to inject a default route using BGP. If you like this video, please comment, like, subscribe to the network.